So welcome to this Facebook Live I have every week about sales and marketing, the game about sales and marketing. And today I have Rishabh Dev with me, my guest. And the reason is that I met you here in Vietnam for like 5-6 weeks ago because you had some workshop about growth hacking. And we had a lunch today after you had the workshop, and we were sitting down and talking. And I think it was so inspiring, and what you're doing is not so many in the world who are doing. So it's really, cool that you said yes to this. I know we are really busy. I have a company with over 25 employees, and we are traveling all over the world to speak about growth hacking. So thank you for having some time to do this, Rishabh.
Thank you so much, Peter, for having me. It was wonderful to meet you in Vietnam as well, and I'm sure you also have to take out time for this every week. And it's amazing what you're doing with this. I had a look at the other videos as well that you've posted. I agree. It's been a lot of events and a lot of traveling and a lot of work, but this is what I live for. This is what really keeps me going, and I'm happy to be here today talking to you.
Cool, thank you. And hello to everyone who are on the line also. You can just write in the chat box that you are hearing us, and also ask a lot of questions to Rishabh under the Facebook Live, so you can get answering what you want. But first, Rishabh, I want to, because you're quite young, and can you tell me how you started like an entrepreneur? What happened, or how did you become an entrepreneur?
Sure thing. I think with regards to that, I have a funny story to tell. Once I was in a client meeting, and we were just discussing about the client's requirements, and I was asking a couple of questions, and the client said, he stopped the meeting and he said, "How old are you?" And then he stood up and he shook my hands and he said, "It's commendable what you've done, and we would love to work with you." How it all started was I realized quite early. I think I got the early movers advantage while I was in school itself. I realized that it's going to make a lot of sense if I do something of my own, and I build something of my own. And before I was even into college, I started an online business. I started my first blog, and back then digital marketing was just blogging and SEO and very traditional digital marketing sort of stuff. There was no growth hacking. But my approach to how things would work, in my opinion of digital marketing, was very different. I tried to be creative with whatever channels I was experimenting with and whatever campaigns I was running for clients, which led me to become a growth hacker before I really found out about growth hacking. So I started really early. I think I got the early movers advantage. I've been doing this for around 8 years now, specifically growth hacking. And I built a team with freelancers initially, and then I moved to a full-time team. I expanded my team. I started a incorporation, and I hired full-time employees. So it's been quite a fun roller coaster ride, especially because growth hacking was very new to the market, and there were very few people. I mean, even today there are very few people doing it. So yeah, that's how it all started.
So how did you decide that you was going to start with growth hacking?
That's the fun question. So while I was building my business, I realized that, I need to do something different to expand, because all the guys I was competing with, all the different firms and businesses that I was fighting with for clients, in some sense, were all very heavily funded, and they had 3 co-founders, and I'm the sole founder of this business. I'm the sole founder of my services, consulting, as well as my academy business. So I knew that I had to do something more creative than them to promote my business, which is how I came up with the hacks. And in the first year of business, we saw a rise from $200,000 to $600,000 in 1 year. Using growth hacking to improve sales for my business. That was a very small business because it was the first year of business, and we made around $200,000. We moved to $600,000 in a single year, just using these growth hacks. And then that's the time I realized that I should do this for other people, and not just the usual stuff. In the first year, I just did websites and some online SEO and design work, but then I realized this is where my expertise is, and I want to implement these hacks for different clients and help them grow using growth hacking.
Hmm. So I think a lot of the people are listening to this today have no idea what growth hacking is. So can you explain what growth hacking is?
Sure thing. So that's one of my favorite questions because it's most commonly asked. I also find it interesting that across the internet and across different speakers, they have different answers for this question, which is because there's no authority on growth hacking as such, and people tend to think different ways. I want to make sure that everyone here, at least for this session, understands that growth hacking is a mindset. It's not exactly a list of things that you do with your marketing channels. It's not A/B testing. It's not experimenting. It's all of these things, but it's much more. It's a lot to do with how you think about campaigns and how you think about your business goals and metrics and promotion. So I have this beautiful quote which I want to share with everyone. It's by a Japanese samurai. His name was Miyamoto Musashi, and he was one of the best swordsmen of his time. And he wrote a book called The Book of Five Rings, where he says, there's always more than one way to the top of the mountain. So if you're climbing a mountain and you want to get to the top, now this is true for anything in life. You want to get to the top of the mountain, there's always more than one way. Even in sales, I'm sure, so Peter is the expert for that, but he can tell us that if you have to cross the gatekeepers in sales and reach the decision makers, there's always more than one way. It's not just the calls or it's not just the mails. I think once you understand this, and you start doubting the default ways of doing things, and you find unconventional approaches and unconventional channels, which we call hacks, to achieve business growth, that's exactly what you mean by growth hacking. So you find these unconventional creative hacks. When I say hacks, it implies creative and not necessarily hacking into something, which is a misconception that I want to clarify. It's not really hacking into data or hacking into passwords or something like that. It's creatively approaching the problem of achieving business growth, which is why it's called growth hacking.
So can you give me some? Okay, like I am using Facebook a lot.
Sure.
Nick is asking if we get a recording of this. This will be on my Facebook page after this session, so you can watch it there, and it will also be uploaded on YouTube. Okay, so I'm using Facebook to marketing myself, like a sales trainer and marketing, and I do it with webinars and or I do funnel and all this stuff that you also talked about that you did before. So can you give an example of someone like me can use growth hack in a good way, or do you have some success stories from clients you can tell me about growth hacking?
Sure thing. Let's do both. I think it's interesting. It's fun that you asked me this question. So I want to take up the question in regards to you because, of course, I've been telling my client case studies all over, and this is something new. So essentially, the core concept that we need to understand before we get into the examples is the concept of an OPN. And the OPN stands for other people's networks. So OPN, other people's networks. When you approach the problem of marketing in a digital marketeer's way, you say, okay, this is the problem. Let's say I want more people in my email list. So you do these sessions and you send a mail out to people who want to join the session. So you have an email list of 100 people and you say, I want 500 people or 10,000 people in my email list. This problem can be approached in multiple ways. A digital marketer would say, hey, my favorite channels are Facebook and Google Ads and SEO. I make a landing page, I A/B test the colors and the copy and so on, and then I run Google Ads on it. And in exchange, I get these leads which go into my email marketing tool. The other way of approaching this could be, hey, let's make a page with all the benefits of subscribing to this mailing list, and then optimize it for search engines. So if we get the rank, we probably get more subscribers. This is how a digital marketer approaches this problem. A growth hacker would say, this is my metric, and whatever the world possible I can use, it doesn't matter if it's Facebook, they don't subscribe to a list of favorite channels. For instance, Airbnb is a classic example of growth hacking, and they used Craigslist as their channel. They could have done Google Ads, but they used Craigslist because that's where the target audience was more relevant. If you look at PayPal, they could have used SEO to promote PayPal, but they used eBay because eBay was a platform where people were buying and selling, which seemed like a good platform for PayPal to target. In fact, this growth hack was really popular, and it's been listed as one of the classic growth hacking examples. So for you, for instance, I think an example of an OPN could be my network, could be the other speakers that you invite. For instance, what you're doing right now is you're creatively growth hacking into my network by inviting me as a speaker. I can see a lot of reactions from my followers on this video, for example, right? So that's one way that you growth hack into another person's network. So the other person's network may not be Facebook. It could be an email list, it could be a forum, it could be another platform, it could be a competitor's website. It could be, for example, that you go on my Twitter profile and you go on my followers and you run a creative JavaScript and start following all my followers and they follow you back. And because we have a similar target audience, we have a target audience match, these people then like your content and engage with your content. Now, the opportunity that you see here is that Twitter has open followers. You can't go and see the people. I can't go and see the fans of your Facebook business page, but I can go and see your Twitter followers, and I can steal your followers to come back and follow me because we have similar content. Right? So that's an opportunity, and that's how you creatively growth hack into the opportunity. So it all starts with an opportunity. You see what's the opportunity of this platform, or what's the opportunity of this campaign, and then you creatively hack into the campaign. The problem with the very popular channels, if you go for Facebook ads and Google ads and SEO, is that they take a lot of time or they take a lot of money. You can either do organic or paid marketing. Organic marketing is going to be a lot of years of blogging and SEO and so on, and paid marketing would need a lot of budgets. Growth hacking comes exactly in between and says, hey, you can creatively hack, or leverage is a better word. You can creatively leverage this channel or this person's audience ethically and creatively without having to wait too long to get results, or without having to invest a lot of money to get results. And I think those are some creative ways that I would look at using other people's networks.
Wow. And then some success stories from clients you have done, or some cool stories that you have from.
I think the coolest one, which became the most popular even online, is the one where we used Tinder for growth hacking. And I don't think a lot of digital marketing agencies would consider Tinder as a digital marketing channel. And this was back then when Tinder didn't really have advertising. You can now see ads on Tinder, but that was not the case. And this was for a food delivery client that we were working with. And the client was looking for food orders. It was looking for the first set of users from Facebook. And the obvious first thing that you do is, let's say you build a kitchen and you set up your food delivery business. The obvious first thing you do is you look at Facebook ads. And when they were running these Facebook ads, they realized that it's the lifetime customer value and the cost of acquisition of a customer from Facebook ads is not matching up. So you're not able to make enough revenue, but you're investing a lot of money in the ads. And hence Facebook advertising was not a good option for them. What we did instead is we created the profile of this food delivery app on Tinder. And it was a simple campaign that you swipe. So on Tinder, you swipe right or you swipe left, the basics of how it works. You swipe right, and if we match together, you get a free meal. And we used to deliver these free meals, and we used to give them 350% discount coupons with every meal, which they used to pass on to their friends or come back and order again from us. So the first thing we did is the cost of user acquisition became free, because with every match, you get a free meal, we get your user data, and you know how important user data is in the startup ecosystem today. Once you get the user information, the next time you give them 50% off, you get some revenue. You also get retention because the person comes back and orders from you again. So you've growth hacked acquisition and you've growth hacked retention. The third time, when you give them 350% discount coupons, they refer to their friends, which means you've also growth hacked referrals. So you've growth hacked 3 funnels of sales and marketing. You've growth hacked acquisition, you've also growth hacked your client retention, and you've also growth hacked your client referral without having to invest any budget in ads. So that's a cool story, which I think it got really popular because of Tinder. But I think even the results were astonishing for us, because the same thing we were doing through Facebook ads. We were spending around $3 for each acquisition, and the meal itself was around $2.5, the cost to the company for the meal, and this was basically a $0 cost of acquisition. And I think a lot of people in the market have also followed and implemented the same hack for their startup as well. That was one cool story that I think.
So how good did this campaign go? How many come to this restaurant based on
In
this
fact,
thing? Or
it was so funny that the client ended up stopping the campaign because he didn't have enough resources to fulfill the orders. We got the first 500 orders in a month, but that's also because we have a huge population in India, so that adds to the success of the campaign. But we got the first 500 orders. We didn't have enough resources to deliver the orders. And the client also got the first round of funding after this campaign. So it's beautiful when you see a growth hack leading the client to their funding rounds, and then we can even improve the growth hacks using automation and technology and so forth. So the good thing about growth hacking is you initially do it manually. You initially run you build a team and you let people run the hacks, but then you can scale it using automation and maybe Ruby on Rails and JavaScripts in the front end, and you can do all kinds of stuff to scale growth hacks, which is why it's always a combination of marketing over technology. It's not only digital marketing, it's not only tech, it's always a combination of both.
And you also say that growth hacking is basically a mindset. So can you tell me more about what kind of mindset is different from normal marketing? Like
yes. I'll give you a quick example for that. I call this term called channel personas. I see that, everyone knows that digital marketeers and marketeers in general create user personas. And they see, okay, this is what my target audience looks like. And they probably live on LinkedIn. Or if they're B2C, they probably live on Instagram. If they're millennials, they probably live on Snapchat. And digital marketeers have this whole categorization of this channel, this audience, this channel, this audience. But growth hackers say, hey, forget about these channels. Let's look at channel personas. What can we use to achieve this? They start thinking from the root, and they say, okay, maybe going to the office, going to a forum which has the same target audience might be my right persona. So they start thinking from the root. I think digital marketers are a little biased because of the popular channels. So if you give them a business goal, they will say, okay, I can achieve this through Facebook, I can achieve this through Twitter, but they don't think outside of that. And the other thing is that growth hackers start thinking based on the OMTM. So we call this concept OMTM, stands for the only metric that matters. We use a lot of these funny acronyms in growth hacking, which are really sweet. So the only metric that matters means that you, at a time when you're running a digital marketing campaign or a marketing campaign in general, you only focus on that one thing. And this concept is borrowed from lean analytics. I suggest reading the book Lean Analytics for everyone who's watching this, wherein we just do everything to achieve that business goal. That's where this mindset comes from. Versus digital marketers who look at a lot of different metrics, sometimes vanity metrics, sometimes likes, sometimes comments, sometimes shares, which sort of puts them in a box, I feel. So growth hackers, on the other hand, would look at the one single OMTM, which matters the most to the business right now.
So what's the new thing in growth hacking in 2018? What's the hot thing now?
Yeah, I think some of the things have evolved from what was really working well in 2017, and some new growth hacks have come up. The way search engines used to work has changed a lot, and people have started using a lot of voice search devices and other sort of things, which is why, and location-based search has become big. With social, there are different changes. So growth hackers essentially adopt to the different changes with respect to the digital marketing industry, and then put their automation technologies on top of it. So what I mean to say is, if there was 20% automation in marketing in your campaigns in 2017, in 2018 you will probably use 40% automation in your campaigns. It'll double the amount of automation that you use. However, with growth hacking, you need to really decide what parts and what aspects of your campaign you want to automate or not automate. Growth hacks with regard to products have become really big. In 2018, people have also started experimenting growth hacks for B2B businesses, which was really less. So before this, growth hacks used to be really popular for B2C, but no one really knew how to implement them for B2B, which is becoming big because the big guys have started coming into growth hacking. So we used to have this mindset that growth hacking is for startups, but that's not the case anymore. And for example, one of the biggest clients that I work with on growth hacking is Philips. And Philips did not really, is not, it's not a startup, and everyone knows how big they are. And the fact that someone like Philips has come to me for growth hacking gives me hope that a lot of big businesses would start implementing growth hacking. I think that's the key change, because of which, if you read the latest news, you'll see that there's 80% increase in the number of job openings in growth hacking when you compare the periods of the last quarter of 2017 to the first month of 2018. 80% increase in the number of job openings for growth hacking. So I think it's going to be a really big industry, and not just a fancy creative hack for some selected people. But that's how it's going to change this year.
Wow, cool. And if you are listening like this, can you just give us a like and give us some hearts in the chat, and also write us some questions. So just write questions in the chat box. I see that Nick has asked a question. I want to contact all the members in a certain Facebook group who happens to be my target audience. What would you suggest?
I want to contact all the members in a certain Facebook group. Right? Okay, so in that case, if it's your own group, you probably want to run a JavaScript to import these members first into a Google Sheet. And then you want to use their Facebook IDs to send them an automated message on Facebook using a messenger bot. Now, this might seem like a complicated process, but it's actually quite easy if you use some third-party apps to do it. The first step would be, run a JavaScript, which you can run on your browser. You open your Facebook group, you go to the members page, and then you have a list of all the members. With the link of their Facebook profiles, you can extract their Facebook IDs. So every profile on Facebook has an ID. Once you get this ID, you can use a Facebook bot, which there are a lot of apps which you can use to build. If you're a techie, it's even easier for you. And then this bot sends an automated message to all the people on this group. That would be the approach I would follow to do that. It's it's not a strategic question. It's a very execution level question, but yeah, I'm happy to answer that as well.
And John asked, can you tell me about...
I've messaged John the link of the book as well.
Okay, yeah. So why are you so passionate about growth hacking?
I think the biggest reason is that I saw a lot of startups when I was starting out who were really struggling with the digital marketing, and I was consulting them on their digital marketing. And at some point, we used to come to this conclusion that, hey, this can be done, but it's going to take 2 years. Let's say I want to rank number 1 for this keyword. It's a really specific, targeted, short tail keyword. It's going to take 2 years for you to do it. It's going to take 1 year, 6 months, whatever. The other problem was we used to say, hey, this is going to take so many dollars to do this, so many dollars to get these leads from ads. And I said, this is not the way we can do it, because we are startups, we have lower budgets, so we need to find something to do it. And I'm passionate because I want these startups to grow. And this, I think, is the biggest thing that startups are ignoring. They start with small budgets, and then they just get into this loop of putting more and more money into ads, or creating more and more content and writing 1,500-word blogs and optimizing their alt tags and image tags and trying to do on-page SEO, but that's going to take a lot of time. So I think it's the passion comes from
Did I lose you? I cannot hear you now. Can the rest of you hear Rishabh? Hello? Okay, we'll see if Rishabh comes back. Just give us a minute or something. See if he will come back. It's good that so long as I know you hear me, I know it's not on my side, but he will hopefully get back. Yeah, he's on the way in again, so just give us some 1 more minute or something, so Rishabh will come back. So, and when we are waiting for him, I will ask you to ask him questions. So even if you don't understand anything about what he's talking about, just ask him questions so he can explain it. Because now we have an opportunity to talk with one of the best on growth hacking in the world. So just ask some question and how you can use this in your business. You can also ask him question and tell what you are doing and see how he can come up with some ideas how you can use growth hacking. Let's see if we get back. So I'm asking you again, what is your question to Rishabh when he's back? What do you want to know about growth hacking? Please write them in the chat box now. He says he's on the way back.
Hello.
Oh, now he's coming. There you are. Okay. Do you hear me?
You can hear me. Yeah, I can hear you, Peter. Yeah.
That's good. Then we are back.
Okay, great. Sorry about that.
Yeah. So where was we? You talked about.
Yeah, so I think yeah, that's the biggest reason why I also get a lot of motivation to do what I'm doing from when I see that startups have these growth hacking case studies and they get a lot of recognition and funding because of that. So I feel that I've participated in the process. The other thing is when I started reading up online about growth hacking and seeing what kind of case studies come up, I could see a lot of case studies by people from different parts of the world, but I realized that there are not many growth hackers from my country, and I wanted to change that. And the third thing was the third reason, which I think is the most important reason, is that there's currently no single process of growth hacking in the ecosystem. And people think, which is why there's so much controversy about growth hacking and so many myths about growth hacking, is because no one has said that these are the steps for you to achieve a growth hacking successful campaign. And that's what I'm trying to build. So I've built a 16-step growth hacking process, which we follow at Mapplinks. We've tried it for 100 and more startups, and we've achieved 60 successful growth hacking campaigns, which is a 60% conversion rate. I think it's amazing because when I say successful campaigns, I mean unicorn campaigns. I mean campaigns which get you funded, which get you results, which get you sales without having to invest a lot of budgets. So that's where I feel I want to do something big in terms of publishing this growth hacking process that I follow. Once I experimented with around 500 startups, which is my target, which I think I'll do very soon, considering the number of startups that are using my process today. So I've done 60 growth hacking talks around the world, and a lot of people in my email list have responded back to me. And what I need right now is a lot of data. I'm looking for a lot of startups who can take my process. I give it for free. They implement the process. They come back to me and say, hey, this is the data. Your process works or doesn't work. That's all I want to know right now, which keeps me really, really motivated and driven about growth hacking.
So you say that for a low budget, you can do growth hacking. So can you explain why is growth hacking so much cheaper than anything else, and why is it not so time confusing?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, I think the biggest reason is that we don't use the oversaturated marketing channels. So I'll give you a small example. Facebook's organic page reach came down from 12% to 2% in 6 months. And in 6 months, their stock price went down by 40%. So you can see that as the channels mature, as the saturated channels or the most popular channels, they mature, it's even harder to get results from these channels because you have to invest a lot of money in ads. If you use unconventional channels, you don't have a lot of digital marketeers using the channels which you're using, which means that there's less competition, which means that you don't really have to invest in ads because you're not fighting and bidding for budgets, but you are fighting for budgets when you use something like AdWords, when you use something like Facebook ads. You're essentially fighting with your competitors and people using the same target audience for ad budgets. But when you use an unconventional growth hacking channel, you're using an off-peak channel, which means that there are not a lot of marketeers on that channel, right? Which means you don't have to really fight, and just more money will not help. More creative ideas would help. The other question was, why is it so easy and fast? That's because you can automate a lot of things in growth hacking, which is because it has a layer of tech on top. However, digital marketing is just digital marketing. If you're a techie, you're a techie. If you're a digital marketer, you're a digital marketer. But if you're a growth hacker, you have to be either a team of a techie or a marketer, or you have to wear both hats at the same time.
So you also say that to be a growth hacker, you need to be creative. So how do you, when you start with a new client and want to help a new client with growth hacking, how do you do this creative thing, or how do you find up new ideas?
Yeah. So the best way, I think, so one of the things is, since we've done it for 100 clients already, we know a lot of things that will work or not work for a new client. But the best way to do this is we use something called the target audience mapping. So we make a document, we send a questionnaire to the clients, and they tell us, this is my target audience and these are the channels I'm currently running campaigns on. The first thing we do is we do not use any of the channels the client is already using, because we know that he's probably reached the maximum level of saturation on these channels. The other thing we do is we look at the competitors of this client. We look at the other people who have the same target audience as them, and we see what growth hacks are they implementing for their audience, right? So it becomes really easy once you know. So let's say if you say my target audience is B2B decision makers who live in New York, right? I look at 10 other companies who also are targeting B2B decision makers who live in New York. And then I see what kind of growth hacks they are implementing, and I implement the same for you. So that's my approach to finding new ideas for growth hacking, is to see what your competitors are doing, or to see what anyone who has the same target audience is doing. The other way is I look at apps, I look at other apps who have the same target audience as you, and I find these apps on Product Hunt, on websites like Beta List, on websites of upcoming startups. Product Hunt, for example, is one of my favorites. I go to Product Hunt, I go to the category which my client belongs to, and I see all the apps, and I reverse engineer how they are promoting themselves. So once I reverse engineer them, I know their growth hacks, and I can implement something similar for my clients. So that's the growth hack of finding growth hacks, if I may say. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and Satya yet asked, how does growth hacking works? I think said something about it, but maybe I have some
Yeah.
more.
Yeah, I would like to answer that a little more technically and deep dive into it a little bit. Growth hacking uses a couple of methodologies, including lean, agile, and a lot of automation. The way it works is that you start with an OMTM, you start with a metric in mind, and you start with a single metric that you want to achieve. If it's the number of subscribers, it's the number of subscribers. It could be the number of clients. It could be the number of sales. It could be the revenue. And then you start making creative experiments to achieve this metric. The way I do it is I always make around 8 creative experiments using which I can achieve this metric, because for me, the magic number is 8. If I'm doing 8 experiments, I usually have one unicorn successful experiment out of it. I think if you're a beginner, you might have to do 10, you might have to do 15. Sometimes if you get a bright idea, you might have to do just one and you find a unicorn growth hack. Then I run these experiments, use lean analytics to measure the results, and I keep the experiments which work and I leave the experiments which don't work. So the good thing is that the timeline of these experiments are really short. So in a week, you can find something which works or doesn't work. But in digital marketing, you take months to find what works and what doesn't. So once you know what works, you A/B test the experiments against each other. And you're finally left with, let's say, 2 growth hacking experiments. Once you find the experiment which works the best, now it's the time to use technology to scale it, right? It could be through automation. It could be through building an app. It could be through building a bot. Once it's automated, you have a successful growth hack which you put into your process. You just have to retune or refine it once a week, and it keeps getting you results. So that's how. If it's a big question, but to summarize how growth hacking works, I think this would be a sufficient answer.
Cool. And there is a question from a Norwegian asking, what kind of other platforms can you use if you're not using Facebook to do digital marketing?
Right. I don't want to limit your options. So it could be any channels, but I can give you a framework to decide, to help you decide what channel you can use. So I'll give you a small example first. There's this company called BetterHelp. It's a mobile app where you can find consultants to help you with psychological problems or mental illnesses or depression and so on. And the channel that they used recently in 2017 for their growth hack was publication websites. And how they did it was they found the magazines written for people with mental illnesses. And instead of writing guest blogs or submitting their link or paying for ads, they gave them free images, right? So they go on these websites where you can get copyright-free images. They modify the images a little bit, and they write a mail to all the publications with the same target audience as theirs, saying that, hey, I have free images for you, which you can use for your articles. All I need in return is a small backlink below the image. Now, this is a simple hack. You can get free images online, get your designer to modify them a little bit, send it to all the blogs, specifically the blogs where you see the images are missing. You have a bot which can check the blogs where images are missing. You send it to the editors. It's easy to use Email Hunter and find email IDs. And then you say, hey, put this image on your blog. It'll look much better. It gets you more results. It's good for SEO. It's free for you. Just put my backlink. And now all of these magazines are linking back to this new app, which has the same target audiences as the magazine. So their channel was not Facebook ads. It was these magazines, and this entire experiment was free. They did not have to invest any budgets in it. And they've been doing this for 6 months, which means I think it's a successful experiment.
Wow, that's cool. And Nick is asking, is there a blog where we can get a guy who understands both coding and growth hacking?
I'm not sure if I understand the question clearly. Is there a blog? I mean, you mean, is there a website where we can hire someone?
I think it's if there is a blog with someone are both blogging about growth hacking and coding.
Okay. I think there are a lot of these blogs. I mean, I usually blog about growth hacking, which includes coding itself. Growthhackers.com is an interesting blog to check out because they have a lot of regular content updates from growth hackers across the globe. You should definitely have a look at that. It's growthhackers.com.
And Nick is also asking, can you give me an example of experiment? Yeah, I already said something, but if you have some more.
Yeah. I have a lot of examples. So let's say let's see the entire process again. So your metric is to, let me think of a good example. Let's say your metric is to rank on the first result for the keyword growth hacking consultant, right? So I'm assuming that you're a growth hacker and you want to give your growth hacking consulting services. This is a growth hack I implemented for myself. And I want to rank on the first result for if someone searches for the term growth hacking consultant. I'm looking for clients locally. I'm looking for local clients, local businesses who will search for this keyword. So we have something called local SEO. The digital marketeer's approach to this problem would be, hey, let me optimize my website for the keyword growth hacking consultant. So that's the default approach. That's the digital marketing approach. Now we look at the growth hackers approach, which is what I did. So I realized that if I'm competing for the keyword growth hacking consultant, I have a lot of different growth hacking consultants around me, and they all have good blogs. And maybe, I don't know how their work is, but they do have a lot of content on their website, and maybe they're really good at SEO. And if I have to fight for a keyword like this, I need to wait for 6 months at least, or 8 months. If you look at a completely white hat SEO, you have to wait for 6 or 8 months to get results. That's when I realized there's something called the local pack. So if you search on Google for a local business, you get the first few results from businesses around you, which are Google Maps results. There's a small snippet called the local pack, and there are 3 business results on this snippet. And below that, you have the first result. Now, as a growth hacker, I saw this as an opportunity to rank 0. So we call this rank 0 because it's above rank 1. So if you search for growth hacking consultant in India, you get this box with 3 results, and then you have the rank 1, the first result. So what I did is I created a business listing, and I optimized the business listing for the keyword on Google Maps for the keyword growth hacking consultant. In a week's time, I was ranking on the 0th result. So if you search for growth hacking consultant today, now if you're sitting in Bangalore and you search for growth hacking consultant, I come up on the first as the first result in this local pack, and then you have the other results, right? I also am scaling this. So for instance, I can use Peter's address in Vietnam, and I can list that his house as growth hacking consultant, put my name, Rishabh Dev, growth hacking consultant. All he needs to do is give me the verification code from Google Maps. And then if someone is searching for growth hacking consultant in Hoi An, in Da Nang, in Peter's area, vicinity, I come up on the first result. And it doesn't matter because if someone clicks on it, they still go to my website and they still email me. So the address really doesn't matter. If I go to Paris, I find an address there. I put my address there. If someone searches for growth hacking consultant in Paris, they see me as the first result. So it's a simple hack which you can use in different locations. You can scale it differently, even if you're not a local business. The other way of doing the same thing is I can search for top growth hacking consultants on Google, and I can see the top 10 results. The funny thing you'll notice is that 70% of the results will either be threads, will be Reddit, will be Quora, will be listicles. Some people would have written a blog about growth hacking, and you can go and mention your own link inside these blogs. So instead of ranking on the first result, you can rank inside the top 10 results on Google, which are already ranking on Google. So just like OPN, other people's networks, we call this other people's search rankings. So we are hacking into other people's search rankings. And when Google sees that the top 5 or 10 results are ranking back to you, your link gets pushed up on Google. So those are 2 experiments. I would run these experiments in parallel. I would run the local search experiment, and I would run the other people's search rankings experiment. And then I would A/B test these experiments against each other using my lean analytics concepts. And the one which works will be a growth hack. So just to clarify, the first step is growth experiments. All the experiments just work on one thing, which is achieving your only metric that matters, your OMTM. And then you decide which growth experiment you want to keep, which becomes your growth hack. So the growth hack is not born as a growth hack. It's born as a growth experiment, and then it becomes a beautiful growth hack. And then hopefully it becomes a unicorn growth hack.
So how long time do you run a test campaign before you decide who is the best?
So I have a 2-week duration for each experiment. Usually after 1 week, I see the results and I would either let go of the experiment, or I would decide to run it for 1 more week. And then the second test is the growth hack test. So the first is growth experiment and then the growth hack. Each growth hack runs for a maximum of 40 days. After 40 days, we decide to scale it using technology and embed it into the marketing process. So 40 days is the time which gives us enough time to decide if we want to keep this forever or we want to let go of it and make another one,
Cool. So, and if you have more question about growth hacking, please answer now. We have like 12 minutes left. And you are also like a digital nomad because you're traveling a lot. So can you tell me how you can travel so much when you have 25 employees in India, and how do you make this happen?
Yeah, I think I've been blessed with a dream team. That's the first thing. I also think that it's easier because I have most of my clients are around outside India. Most of my clients are in the US, UK, Europe. I have also 80-20 in my clients list. So if I say, hey, I'm not going to be here, I'm going to be traveling. If you don't want to work with me, it's okay. You're not in my top 20% of clients if you don't want to work with me. I think the problem people have is they don't want to let go. They want to keep all their clients. They want to work with everyone at the same time. With growth hacking, that's not the case. With growth hacking, you focus on 2 or 3 growth hacking campaigns every month, and that's all. If you do more than that, you're doing too much. For one growth hacking team, I say 2 or 3 growth hacking campaigns every month. One growth hacking team is usually 3 people. It's 1 marketeer, 1 analyst, and 1 programmer. So these 3 people would make one really good growth hacking team. Sometimes in smaller startups, you have 2 people and they play different roles. But 3 people is the perfect growth hacking team. I think being into the digital space, it's easier to be a digital nomad because we have access to the right tools. We have the Slacks and the Skypes and everything else to our disposal. And if we don't use these tools and if we don't take advantage of these tools, I think we are missing out on all the beautiful experience that the world has to offer us.
And what is your goal with your business and your life? What's what drives you?
I have my own OMTM. I like to keep it short, so I have an OMTM for 2018. For 2018, I have to achieve 50 successful growth hacking campaigns along with my team. For 2019, I'm going to publish my book on growth hacking. So I have, based on different years, I'm collecting my experience working with growth hacking across with different clients. And I think that book is going to solve the problem of not having a growth hacking process in the ecosystem. It's going to list the exact steps you need to follow to find a successful growth hack, so you don't have to experiment too much. That's my goal for 2019. I think in a few years, I want to start move away from services and move into consulting and education more and more. I already have 3 businesses. I have services, I have consulting, and I have education. So we do growth hacking for clients. We also tell them if they have a team in-house, we brainstorm with them, we tell them how to do it, and they do it in-house. We also train people on growth hacking. So services, consulting, and education. I want to let go of services slowly. I think that's the goal for everyone. They want to move to consulting and education, and eventually have outsourced the services to different teams. But myself, I would like to continue to focus on consulting and education. I've already started doing that. I've already started implementing that in my business.
Yeah. And I have a question I always ask my guests on this Facebook Live. What is your biggest mistake you ever done like an entrepreneur?
I think the biggest mistake I've ever done was not starting early enough, which is funny because I started in school. I think I could have skipped that as well. And the more I learn about startups and entrepreneurship and growth hacking, I feel it's just about the time. The more you fail, the more you experiment, the more campaigns that don't work, I think are your biggest sources of learning and growing. So I would have liked to, got a couple of more years. And I think I always pushed it. I was like, when I was 17, I did my first startup. I think I could have done it when I was 15 or something like that. There's no other regret.
Okay. And do you have a do you have something secret thing you need to tell all these people listening today? What they should do, or like one thing they should do in the future with growth hacking?
Of course. I mean, I have a lot of secrets, but the one secret, the one thing that I think will immediately shift your graph from whatever point A you are and to point B is, I think that you should stop reading about digital marketing, stop thinking about digital marketing channels as the magazines and the marketeers want to tell you. Stop looking at digital marketing agencies for a while, and really think about where do my people hang out. Just ask that question. I think when I tell this clients, it's just an eye opener for them. They're like, I never thought that my target audience is sitting in that bar in the corner of the street, and I can go and talk to them. I don't need to really hire this agency to go on Facebook, do all this narrow targeting and find them in the bar and then target them. So what I mean is, just stop for a minute and think about where your people are hanging out. And that will give you a lot of answers about how you need to approach your marketing campaigns. A lot of people are just relying on the channels which are the most popular, and that's the biggest mistake. And this small change in your thought process is going to really make you a growth hacker, irrespective of whether you understand growth hacking or not.
Cool. And we got one more question before we're ending. Lene is asking, if you are consulting a company in Norway, how do you do it when it comes to target group in Norwegian, the language?
Yeah, I have, in fact, around 2 or 3 clients in this Scandinavian region. And the way we work is, the language is really a barrier for a digital marketer or a content writer, because their core focus is on content. However, my core focus is on the algorithm I need to develop to get these people for me. If I'm looking for if your target audience is people of age 20 to 30 in Norway, I map the channels and I see, okay, these are the algorithms I need to develop. You have a content writer. If you don't, we use so many tools out there to get a content writer who understands the language. We bridge the gap. We rely on the collective talent which is available in the world through online channels like Freelancer, Guru, Elance are some just a few examples. There's so many ways out there. Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups, specialization groups. I think we should focus on how do we get from point A to point B creatively, rather than focusing on how will we say what we have to say, because it's great. I mean, it's a great brand. It's a great thing when you have teams of all different target groups who understand all different target groups in-house, but unfortunately that's not possible. So it's always good to have a talent pool. And with the digital channels available to us, I think we always have a talent pool that we can tap into. So what I've personally done is I've different lists in my email marketing tool from different countries of my connections. I think that the 8 years of working in this ecosystem has given me the advantage of having a lot of contacts that I can rely on. And if you say, hey, Norway, I pull out the list from my email marketing tool and I say, hey, this is the Norway list. I hire someone from the list who works with me for you while we consult you. So the brain is mine, but the content is the talents.
Thank you so much, Rishabh, and it has been a pleasure to have you here. We're really inspiring, and I also learn a lot from you. So I hope everyone who are still on the line can give us some more likes and comments, and also share this if you know friends who should have been listening to this. And thank you again for have some time to do this, Rishabh, and I hope to see you in the future. And maybe you
Yes,
can come to Norway and do some training there.
of course. I think we're going to see each other in Vietnam as well as in Norway. It was really fun doing this, and thank you for having me with you, Peter. Yeah.
Thank you so much, and goodbye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.